Do you think that you can catch Tesla by 2025?
Absolutely, Phil. When people get into these vehicles, they are just wowed.
Is the EV market a war zone between many EV manufacturers? Once a shining example of environmentally friendly transportation and rapid technological advancement, the electric vehicle business is currently in chaos. If you've been following the news, you've probably seen a lot of stories over the last few days about the EV industry and the EV firm's struggles with competition. He Xiaopeng, the CEO of XPeng furthermore, a Chinese competitor of Tesla, declared that the company was boosting spending and adding thousands of additional employees to withstand the bloody sea of rivalry. Why is there such cutthroat competition in the EV market? Take for example the Volkswagen-backed business XPeng, said they'd hire 4,000 more people and spend $486 million on AI and driverless vehicle technologies. XPeng, which has its headquarters in Guangzhou, has been struggling in spite of making large announcements of recruitment and investments. The CEO, He Xiaopeng of XPeng, remarked that a lot of business partners are retreating because they're hesitant to make investments in EV. He continued by saying that since its establishment 10 years prior, XPeng, which was created in 2014, has been in a bloody sea of rivalry. This response by a CEO of an EV company comes at a time when China's disproportionate capability to produce electric vehicles was causing Washington and Brussels to become more anxious. Being an EV buff, you must have noticed that the past year has seen a downturn in the demand for electric vehicle manufactured by General Motors, due to increased competition from Chinese manufacturers and high borrowing prices in the United States. GM has reduced its dependency on EVs and started focusing on gasoline vehicles. If you notice, similar to every other automaker, GM makes the most money from the gasoline business rather than the electric vehicle market. Due to their primary source of profit, gasoline-powered automobiles are the focus of companies such as General Motors. Strong demand for the automaker's very profitable pickup trucks and SUVs under the Chevrolet and GMC brands will help GM CEO Mary Barra. Barclays increased its target price for GM shares by 10% to $55 some time ago, citing strong sales of the company's truck and SUV lines. The year got off to a solid start according to GM Chief Financial Officer Paul Jacobson, and the business felt optimistic about the direction of the demand. The market for battery electric vehicles has been erratic, and legacy US automakers, which mainly rely on sales of large trucks and SUVs, have been hindered by increased costs associated with electrifying their portfolios. GM's high proportion of EV to gas-burning trucks in its North American sales mix will somewhat offset the automaker's anticipated loss for its operations in China. Due to a decrease in commercial client deliveries, GM reported that first quarter US car sales fell 1.5%, while retail sales increased by 6%. One thing is certain based on all of these reports: China is to blame for the current situation. According to the Financial Times, US officials have warned Beijing that if Beijing attempts to address its overcapacity issues by dumping goods on foreign markets, such as electric vehicles and lithium batteries. China became the world's largest automobile exporter last year, surpassing Japan with record-breaking auto shipments of 4.9 million, up from 1.1 million the year before. Only over 1.2 million of those were electric cars, or 29% of all automobiles, including Teslas, with internal combustion engine cars making up the remaining 75% of all cars, according to data from Shanghai consultancy Automobility. According to Beijing research from Gavekal Research, the capacity utilization rate of China's vehicle manufacturing industry has been primarily between 70 and 75% in recent quarters, lower than the range of 76 to 82% that was typical prior to 2020. Exports were pushed as China's EV output surged 38% to 9.5 million vehicles in the previous year. The percentage of EVs sold among new cars increased from 26% in 2022 to 32% last year, despite the growth rate slowing. Auto executives' forecasts of a wave of consolidation that will leave only a few companies in the world's largest vehicle industry have been fueled by the slowing pace of sales growth. The European Union may have ignited one of its greatest conflicts if a rise in state backing for vital industries sparks a worldwide subsidy war. Many say that the war with China over EV exports as the Chinese market is stagnant. Is China caught up in a mess with EU and US officials? The European Union's executive arm opened an investigation into Beijing's financial backing for the electric vehicle industry because officials there believe that millions of auto jobs could be threatened by China's rapidly increasing exports of EVs. The investigation, which may take up to 9 months, is likely to result in fresh duties by the EU on Chinese electric vehicle imports and entangle significant non-EU automakers such as Tesla Inc., which manufacture vehicles in China for exportation to the EU. According to people familiar with the situation, the action might result in tariffs on Chinese EVs that are similar to the 27.5% level currently levied by the US. The source added, requesting anonymity since the talks are confidential and no decision has been made, that the EU levies could change based on the producer. A large rethink by governments in developed economies to shift production closer to home is evident in the bloc's investigation as well as Washington's aggressive countermoves against China. This is especially true for critical industries like semiconductors, pharmaceuticals and heavy industries, which were disrupted during the COVID-19 pandemic. If you're planning to purchase an EV vehicle, it's better to purchase it immediately. With such large-scale anger voiced against Chinese EV companies, many of the Chinese EV companies are planning to stop exporting to the EU and America. Do you think that this will affect the trade relationship between the US and China? Delivering high-end or cost-effective EVs that cater to diverse consumer preferences, garnering praise worldwide, including in Europe, is what Chinese EV companies are good at, according to Chinese manufacturers. In short, creating chaos in the EU and US markets. The fight lines over EVs are paralleling many industries worldwide as US-China trade is slowly breaking. Governments from all over the world have been pushing billions of dollars to be invested in new mines, semiconductor factories, and the fabrication of components that the pandemic supply chain disruptions revealed to be overly dependent on China. While EU investigators have been examining other Chinese industries, no investigations are currently underway. Republican members of Congress in the US, meanwhile, have been warning of growing Chinese influence in the US auto industry as a result of the stagnation of the Chinese market. They've warned that a new alliance between Ford Motor Co and contemporary Amperex Technology Co Limited, the largest producer of EV batteries worldwide, could jeopardize US national security and increase the country's dependency on China. It's high time China do something to solve the issue in order to stop additional losses from foreign companies. China needs to address the major concerns covered in this essay. It needs to try to mend fences with the US. How can China address the drop in investment? This affects not just US corporate investments in China, but also those in the majority of its allies, including the UK and Japan. It's imperative to improve the business environment, which includes cutting red tape rather than adding to it, and paying attention to global issues as well as domestic ones. These cover a number of topics such as supply chain disruptions, COVID policies and climate-related challenges. In order to resolve major security issues, it must also be more transparent with other nations. China needs to deal with these problems as quickly as possible in order to maintain its position as a major economic force in the world. Do you think that many EV companies will gradually close down due to the stiff competition in the market? Do share your thoughts on this in the comments section below. For more interesting stories and updates, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to press the bell icon for notifications. Bye for now.